Good day, everyone. For this video, we're going to perform the activity number 6 under Relays module. And this activity, we will combine the interlocking relay and the holding contact on this particular diagram. So, let's start. So, click the Relays module and proceed to the activity number 6, which is entitled Interlocking and Holding Relay. Click play. So, let's proceed to the electrical diagram here. So, and explain the functionality of this. So we have here this R1 and R2 here. So this is the R1 or relay number 1. Then this R1 here, this one is a normally open contact and also a holding contact for this relay 1 or R1 here. And then this R2, this one is a normally open contact which is connected in with the PB3. And this is also a holding contact for the R2 or relay 2 here. And these R2 and R1 here, this one are the interlocking contacts for both this R1 and R2. So this PL3, this one is an indicator that this R1 since it will only close if this R1 is energized. So the PL3 is an indicator that this R1 is energized state. Then this PL4, this one is an indicator for the R2 relate to here it is energized state or on. So how this system works. If we start the circuit breaker, so the PL3 and the PL4 will be turned off because this R1 and R2 here, this one, is a normally open contact. However, if we press this PB2, so the current will now be able to flow through this line or first run line or first run here. Hence, this R1 will be energizing. So if this one is energized, this R1, so this R1 will be closed and we can release now the PB2 because it will close all the time. So if this R1 is energized, so this R1 here will be open. So no matter how we press or click this PB3, the current will not be able to flow because this is an open circuit here. And this R2 will remain its de-energized or off state. So if this R1 or relay 1 is in energized state, this R1 will be closed, then this R1 will be open, then this R2 will remain de-energized state or off state. And this R1 will now be closed, then this PL3 will now turn on. So to de-energize or off state this R1 or relay 1 and turn off this PL3, we have to click this PB1. So if we press or click this PB1, as a result, the current will not be able to flow through this line here since this open contact already or it is open line now. So this R1 or relay 1 will return to its de-energized state or off state. So this R1 will be closed or back to its original state. Then this R1 will back to the open contact. Then so the PL3 and PL4 will now turn off. Then if we click this PB3, this one, the current will be able to flow here energizing this R2. If the R2 is energized state, so this R2 will be closed. So the current now can flow through this path here or through this path here. No matter if we release the PB3, the current can still flow through this path here because this R2, this one is a holding contact. Then this R2 relate to is energized state. The R2 will be open no matter how we click this PB2, this will remain its de-energized state. And this R2 or relate to is energized state. This R2 will be closed and this R2 will be closed, this one, and this PL4 is turned on. But if we want to turn off this PL4 and de-energize this R2 or relate to, then we have to click this PB1 here because the current is flowing through this line here or through this holding contact R2. So we have to interrupt this connection. So how we can do that? By click or press this PB1. This one. As a result, the current now will not be able to flow through this R2. Hence, this R2 will return to its de-energized state. So the R2, this one will be open and this R2 will be closed, this one, and the R2 will be open, then the PL4 will not turn on. So let's start wiring the circuit. But before wiring the circuit, we have to line the circuit by line per line and wire line at the same time. Means we have to finish to connect this line first, the first line, and the second line, a holding contact for R1, then the third line, the third rung, and then the fourth rung, the holding contact for R2, then the fifth line, and the sixth line. We have to do it wire per line and by line. So let's start wiring now. So from 24 volts to the input of PB1. Positive, the input of PB1. Then output of PB1 to the input of PB2. And then the output of PB2, connect it to the 13 of R1. Next, 14 of R1, connect it to the 9 of R2. 14 of R1, connect it to the 9 of R2. So, next, first terminal of R2, connect it to the 0 volts or negative part of the power supply. So, first terminal of R2, connect it to the negative part of the power supply. Then, okay, we're done in the first line. So, in the second line, or holding contact for R1, we can connect the 10 of R1 to the input of PB2. So, 10 of R1 directly connect it to the input of PB2. So next, 6 of R1, connect it to the output of PB2. Then next, so we are done in the second line or holding contact for R1. Then in the third line, the third rung, PB3, input of PB3, connect it to the 10 of R1. So, input of PB3. So, input of PB3, connect it to the 10 of R1. Then, output of PB3, connect it to the 13 of R2. Output of PB3, connect it to the 13 of R2. And then, 14 of R2, connect it to the 9 of R1. So, next, first terminal of R1, we can connect it either first terminal of R2 or to the 0 volts or negative part of the power supply. But to make it easier for us, we can connect it to the first terminal of R2. So, first terminal of R1, connect it to the first terminal of R2. So, we're done in the third line. So, in the fourth line or holding contact for R2. So 10 of R2, connect it to the input of PB3. So 10 of R2 to the input of PB3. So 6 of R2, connect it to the output of PB3. So 6 of R2, connect it to the output of PB3. So we are done in the fourth rank or holding contact for R2. So in the fifth rank, so 11 of R1, we can connect it either input of PB1 or to the 54 volts of the power supply. But to make it easier, we can connect it to the input of PB1. So 11 of R1 to the input of PB1. And then 7 of R1, connect it to the input of PL3 or pilot lamp number 3. Seven of R1, connect it to the input of PL3. Then next, the output of PL3, we can connect it either first terminal of R1 or first terminal of R2 or to the 0 volts. But to make it easier for us, we can connect it to the first terminal of R2. Output of PL3, connect it to the first terminal of R2. Then next, we're done in the fifth rank. In the sixth rank, 11 of R2, we can connect it 11 of R1 or we can connect it to the input of PB1. But to make it easier for us, we can connect it to the input of PB1. So 11 of R2 to the input of PB1. So So 7 of R2, connect it to the input of PL4. Seven of R2, connect it to the input of PL4. Then the output of PL4, we can connect it either the output of PL3, first terminal of R1, or first terminal of R2 or to the 0 volts. But to make it easier for us, we can connect it to the output of PL3. So, output of PL4, connect it to the output of PL3. So, we're done wiring. So, we will assume that if we start the simulation, the PL3 and PL4 should not turn on. So, we'll click now the submit button. So, pass. So, our connection correct. So, now, let's try to press or click this PB2. So, and we expect that this R1 is energized and this PL3 will turn on. So, we'll click now the PB2. So, as a result, the R1 is, or relay 1 is in energized state and the PL3 is now turned on. So, if I release the PB2, so the R1 or relay 1 remain its energized state and the PL3 remain turned on because of the working of holding contact. So, no matter how we press this PB3, the R2 or relay 2 remain de-energized state or off state. And then the PL4 remain turned off. So, in order to energize the R2 or relay 2, we should click this PB1 first. So, we click now the PB1. So, as a result, the R1 now is de-energized state and the PL3 is now turned off. So, we will click now the PB3. So, as a result, the R2 is in energized state and the PL4 is now turned on. However, I release this PB3, the R2 or relay 2 remain its energized state and the PL4 remain turned on because of the holding contact around here. So, no matter how I press this PB2, the R1 remain de-energized state or off state and the PL3 remain turned off because the R2 or the relay 2 is in energized state or turned on. So, we can only turn on or energize this R1 or relay 1 if we press this PB1 here and click this PB2 here. So that's it. Thank you for watching and God bless.